This is CBC Vancouver News.
Little boy lost his life. Little boy lost his life.
An outpouring of community support in the wake of a tragic bus crash that claimed the life of a young boy. His mother still in hospital. Also,
my entire payroll on Monday goes up 2.6%.
BC's lowest wage earners will see a slight pay bump as minimum wage goes up. Why some small businesses say it's another hit to their bottom line. Plus,
today I brought a Hudson's Bay blanket, a vintage one, to give to somebody that's super sad like I am.
the end of an era for Hudson's Bay. Nostalgic Vancouver shoppers pick over what's left on the retailer's final day. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. We're learning more about the family of a 4-year-old boy who was killed after he was struck by a bus near the Horseshoe Bay ferry terminal last week. His mother remains in hospital in intensive care. Leanne Yu has more on the growing community support for the family.
This is the last photo Silvana de Oliveira Charam sent her husband, Clineo Mikado, an hour before tragedy struck. She and her 4-year-old son, Leonardo, were on their way home to Vancouver from a day trip on Bowen Island.
Silvana thought it would be a really fun thing to take Leonardo to Bowen Island because it was so nice out.
But while waiting at the bus stop, the unthinkable happened. Police say around 3:30 p.m. on May 28th, they responded to reports of people pinned under a bus outside the ferry terminal.
Little boy lost his life. Little boy lost his life.
Teresa Morrison and AJ Caridi say Mikado has worked at their pizza shop for 4.5 years.
He started with us just after they had Leonardo.
They say the couple immigrated from Brazil and tried for years to start a family, calling Leonardo their 1% miracle baby.
Leonardo is, just look at the picture. He's like his dad. His dad is the kindest, giving soul on the planet. And look at that little boy's face. It's glowing, it's beautiful, and that's a testament to his parents.
Morrison and Caridi say they've been visiting Mikado frequently since the deadly crash and are now raising money to help cover Leonardo's funeral costs, his mother's medical bills, and to fly family in from Brazil to support Mikado as he takes time off from his 3 jobs to be by his wife's bedside.
She's fighting for her life, for sure.
They say Mikado is processing the incident with compassion.
I would be angry. He's not angry. He's a beautiful, spiritual man. He's worried about everybody else, as always. He's worried about the bus driver.
Last week, West Vancouver police said a TransLink bus driver is being interviewed, adding the investigation is in its early stages and a criminal offense has not been ruled out. Here in Horseshoe Bay, it's a busy day at the transit terminal. Locals are still coping with the shock of the incident by taking moments of reflection at the growing memorial site.
I put the plastic on it just because it was going to rain, but I think it's nice for a 4-year-old kid. So this is what I bring, yeah.
Daniel Perrant was at a cafe nearby when the collision happened and hasn't stopped thinking about the victims.
Still in my heart. It's really difficult.
Leanne Yu, CBC News, West Vancouver.
On Vancouver Island, stranded transit riders are expressing their frustrations as the Cowichan Valley transit strike nears the 4-month mark. As Claire Palmer reports, riders want to see transit localized and service resume immediately.
John Carver is a Duncan resident who says he relies on transit to get around, something he's come to appreciate during the ongoing transit strike.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the lucky ones. I hear about people going, living in Cowichan Bay or somewhere that have work down here. How did they get here? You don't want to take a taxi from Cowichan Bay to get to your work. You never pay for it.
Carver says he wants to see transit brought under the jurisdiction of local municipalities, and other Duncan residents agree.
I definitely think that each municipality should have its own bus system, that drivers can go in and talk to a human that is responsible for this bus system. I don't think it should be all the way in France. France is a long way.
The strike between local bus drivers and the France-based Transdev, who has been contracted out to operate the service by BC Transit, began on February 8th. And union leader Gavin Davies says there's been no negotiations and no plans for any in the future. The union is waiting to see if a special mediator will be appointed, just as was needed to resolve strikes in Whistler and the Fraser Valley in recent years.
They're standing by what their demands are. The morale is good as far as that's concerned, but they're frustrated that the employer didn't agree to this process weeks and weeks ago.
Drivers are asking for wages similar to their counterparts in Victoria, better access to washroom facilities, and more consistent breaks.
They've got reasonable demands. You know, they're basically looking for the same thing that other areas have. It's really crazy that it's gone on so long.
The union held a demonstration last week in Victoria. In a statement last week, Labour Minister Jennifer Whiteside encouraged both parties to use mediation services provided through the Labour Relations Board to resolve the dispute. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Duncan.
Today, BC's minimum wage went up by 2.6% to $17.85 an hour. As Tanushi Bhatnagar reports, though the hike is the smallest in years, it's still hitting some small businesses' bottom line.
My entire payroll on Monday goes up 2.6%.
Nicole Burke runs a catering company in Vancouver. With BC's minimum wage increasing 45 cents on June 1st, she says between the cost of supplies, taxes, tariffs, and mandated wage hikes, it's hard to stay afloat. The new base pay in the province is $17.85 an hour, a change that matches the rate of inflation.
We lead with our heart, not with our wallet. So we want to give everybody as much as we can. And we also need to make enough to keep the lights on.
This year's bump is the lowest percentage increase since the government tied minimum wage to inflation 4 years ago. Experts say on its own, it shouldn't affect small businesses much.
The impact is going to be fairly small in my view because it's 2.6%. It's just the rate of inflation.
It settles down and there's no real job loss, and it doesn't really crater a lot of businesses unless those were businesses that were precarious and maybe likely to fail anyway.
Some say the increase is good news, and others say there's room for more.
This little change, I don't think it will have that much impact on anybody's lives.
It's not a lot, it's not enough, but at least it will help.
But with costs piling, advocates want the province to step up.
BC businesses are calling for support to help them to be able to afford this change, to help them to be able to deal with all of the unpredictable changes.
A rise in costs means two choices for a small business like Imel's Catering: either absorb the costs or raise the prices.
If we're already operating at a razor-thin margin where we are just floating, we can't absorb it. But if we don't absorb it, we lose our client base. So do I lay people off?
That's the tough choice that many small businesses will have to make. As for this catering company, they've decided to stomach the costs for now. Tanushi Bhatnagar, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's a Canadian story older than Canada itself. And today, that story came to an end with the Hudson's Bay Company closing its doors for good. The CBC's Lisa Shing reports.
It may look like odds and ends, but to many, they're pieces of Canadian history.
A little slice of nostalgia. She may get decorated on special occasions, go in my garden. We're going to have fun with her.
Decades-long Hudson's Bay customers heading in to say goodbye.
It's been my go-to for weddings, funerals, and any other time I need some nice attire, so I'm really sad to see it go.
We actually had the Bay as our wedding registry.
HBC's 96 stores across Canada, all closing Sunday. Its distribution centers shutting in 2 weeks. More than 9,000 employees laid off without severance.
I feel like a jilted lover.
Hazel Harris has worked at a distribution center for the last 7 years.
Without us, there would be no HBC. This is a company that's 355 plus years old. How could you let this happen? It's not right.
North America's oldest company, founded in 1670 with its roots in the fur trade, then a retail giant in the 90s. In recent years, the company struggled financially. In March, it filed for bankruptcy, more than $1 billion in debt, and unable to find a buyer for 6 locations it wanted to save.
You have to continuously reinvent yourself. You have to relate to new and upcoming customers like millennials and Gen Z, and they failed to do that.
In the bankruptcy process, some hope a version of the iconic stripes will live on. The company will ask a court Tuesday to approve the Bay's intellectual property be sold to Canadian Tire. And this billionaire from BC plans to buy the leases to 28 locations, though it's still a loss for longtime customers.
The Bay is, for me, is part of my own being, because it's like I'm just like a kid that grew up with this store.
Grateful for the sales, though grieving the end of an era hundreds of years long. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Here in Vancouver, the Bay has operated at Granville in Georgia for 138 years. Earlier today, groups of people waited outside the historic downtown location for the doors to open one last time.
I grew up in a small town in the interior, and we had a Bay, and that was the store we always went to, you know, when we had any, like for grad or any kind of special occasion. It was, where are we going to go? We're going to go to the Bay. And now seeing it closed, it's I don't know, it's just upsetting.
It's pretty sad. It's sad to see it gone. I also think at the same time it's a white elephant. It's a dinosaur from the past. So maybe it's time for it to go. But I would like to see this building turn into like a community center or something.
I'm just so heartbroken for them. Today I brought a Hudson's Bay blanket, a vintage one, to give to somebody that's super, super sad like I am. So this is sad for Canada. This is not a happy time.
The BC Wildfire Service says the Kiskatna River wildfire in the northeast has the potential to grow in the coming days. The fire is burning next to the BC-Alberta border south of Dawson Creek. It now covers around 30 square kilometers, down from 46 square kilometers on Friday. Officials say there has been no significant growth in the last 48 hours, but the dry and windy weather conditions could pose further challenges for firefighters. The wildfire has prompted an evacuation order for about 70 people in the Kelly Lake area, primarily members of the Kelly Lake Cree Nation. Emergency support services for evacuees have been extended by the Peace River Regional District until June 8th. The BC Wildfire Service is also warning of potential new fire starts in the Fort Nelson and Fort St. John fire zones as thunderstorms and gusty winds are expected for the area. All the world's a stage, especially at Caravan Farm near Armstrong, BC, where a theatre company is offering kids a chance to practice Indigenous storytelling out in the nature. Shelley Joyce reports.
Be a mountain, but he must be a mighty boulder.
Indigenous storytelling, land-based learning. 2 of the priorities for these kids on a desk-free day away from their elementary school in Salmon Arm. This is like the mother of all field trips. From live horses to creepy old barns, theater props, and wide open spaces. 80 acres of field and forest to learn about and explore.
Start walking to your spot.
Tira Menzies knew her class was ready for this experience.
They actually really, just sort of understood the concept of storytelling beyond reading a book, writing a story. It was beyond words. And so I thought, well, they get it. We've got to come out here because this is where stories are born in different ways. Theatrical stories, improvised stories, stories with animals. And so and Indigenous learning is a big deal at our school too. I hope they will learn that they are all storytellers. That's kind of where we ended up. I asked them, I said, well, then are you a storyteller? And they realized, oh, yeah, I am a storyteller. I don't have to be good at written output to be able to be a storyteller. It can be an oral story. It can be something that happened to me on the weekend. Anything that is their experience that connects them to either a place or a person makes them a storyteller.
Write it down.
Well, I was never really a writer, but I like being outside in nature.
It feels like I'm connected to the land more when I'm writing, and it's nice being out here and it inspires me a lot. It's good to be out in the nature and be with our friends and have fun. It's a better place to think for me because being in the nature, you have a lot of space to think and it's not crowded like a classroom or a room.
They looked at the trees, they thought about the animals. We are on the traditional unceded territories of both the Secwepemc and the Seal-Okanagan people. This is our third year doing field trips at Caravan Farm Theatre, and it's grown every year, so more and more interest, more and more excitement. We hope that kids will take that they can find inspiration anywhere. I mean, we have a particularly inspiring piece of land, which is why theater has been produced here on the land. Sometimes we use horses, so we've really incorporated the land and nature into our storytelling since 1978. But, they can find inspiration here. They can find inspiration in parks in their own neighborhoods. They can find inspiration in their communities. So getting them in the storytelling mindset.
Even for the kids who may not see themselves as writers, the sun and trees have worked their magic to bring out the natural storytellers on this 80-acre farm.
I just love being in the sunny sun. It's just so nice in the nature. And the land really connects to my heart, and I really love it.
Shelley Joyce, CBC News, Armstrong.
After the break, a Scotiabank cardholder left on the hook for $20,000 in charges he didn't make. That's next. Stay with us. When it comes to fraud and credit cards, you may think you're pretty well protected. One Vancouver man thought so too, until someone racked up nearly $20,000 on his Visa card and the bank sent him the bill. Erica Johnson has this Go Public investigation.
Jordan Judge wasn't expecting two charges totaling nearly $20,000 on his Scotiabank Visa card last fall.
Well, it was definitely astonishment.
An almost $18,000 charge to a British university he'd never heard of, more than $1,800 to someone he didn't know.
I wasn't worried at the time because I knew it wasn't my charge and I couldn't be held accountable for it.
Or so he thought. He disputed the charges, but Scotia pinned the blame on him, saying evidence suggests he must have disclosed one-time passwords sent to his phone. Judge did receive one password needed to approve that $18,000 charge, but it said do not share with anyone, so he insists he didn't. This lawyer and consumer advocate says the bank can't just say Judge is liable.
One would like to see more in terms of actual evidence demonstrating that the customer was negligent rather than an assertion.
Credit card customers are supposed to be protected under the Bank Act, which sets the maximum liability for unauthorized charges at $50, unless a customer is grossly negligent with their personal information. A cybersecurity expert read the letter Scotiabank sent to Judge and says they don't provide proof their customer did anything wrong.
The bank has provided no evidence of any logs or any sequence of events that has been timestamped or reviewed in any way.
And while Scotiabank insists that texting a password has a proven track record in mitigating fraudulent activities, POPA disagrees.
It's vulnerable to a number of different types of compromises.
The university behind the $18,000 charge says the bank never contacted them, but after Go Public reached out, it reversed the charge. And after repeated inquiries from Go Public, Scotiabank quietly reimbursed the other charge and all the interest. While things end well for Judge, the cybersecurity expert says in the face of rising fraud, financial institutions need to do a better job of investigating and providing clear evidence before claiming the customer is to blame. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here we have a live shot of White Rock on a clear night by the water. Still ahead, dozens of people came out to cheer on the Vancouver Whitecaps at the CONCACAF Championship game. We'll have more on that after the break. The Vancouver Whitecaps hosted a watch party here in Vancouver as they played their biggest match of the year in Mexico City. The Whitecaps were hoping to be the first Canadian team to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup as they faced off against Mexican soccer club Cruz Azul.
I want them to know how incredible this team is playing right now, how incredible they've played so far, and I want them to come out and support. Not just for this game, we see how many people are here today, which is incredible, but going forward in the season as well. This guy deserves this, the backing of this city, and it'd be cool to see BC Place filled.
In the end, the team didn't make history as Cruz Azul defeated the Whitecaps 5-0 to win its 7th CONCACAF title. Before the match, the Whitecaps were unbeaten in 15 games. Well, it's spot prawn season once again, so we dropped by a fisherman's wharf to get some tips on how to enjoy fresh spot prawns. Take a look.
Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. They always have white spots. That's how you know it's a BC spot prawn.
So today we're having a live spot prawn pickup. Stuart and his crew just came in about 10 minutes ago with the catch of live prawns. Skipper Auto exists to connect fishing families with home cooks. The home cooks commit ahead of the fishing season to support those families by pledging dollar amounts that they then will spend down throughout the season to get that fishing direct catch. We do the connecting. We work directly and only with fishing families to bring their catches in most cases flash freeze it, so it's really convenient and handy for cooks to have at home.
We fish in Howe Sound, we fish up in the Gulf of Georgia, to past Seashell, anywhere within about 50 nautical miles of Falls Creek. I think it's one of the healthiest fisheries because just cautious management. You know, it's really important to have sustainable seafood. And we want it to last forever. So when we fish to a certain level, we think that's sustainable, then we shut it down. You can come to Falls Creek every day at 2 p.m. We sell off the boat from 2 to 4. And we only caught them an hour or two before, and you can take them home and have them for dinner, and you're just going to love them. There's a sweetness to them, and they're briny tasting like the sea, you know, and the textures just perfect. Only boil for say a minute or so, really gently, pan fry a couple minutes aside, you know, and then some more exotic recipes, but they're so good you can just eat them plain. You know, they don't really need a lot. That's it. It's the best thing you ever ate.
Looks yummy. That is your late news for Sunday, June 1st. Thanks so much for watching. We leave you now with pictures from Squamish's first ever Pride Parade today. Have a great night.